all the marketing tactics that are used, and they're hijacking our kids. That's the part that kills me, is that our kids are losing agency. People are losing agency, right? Because they're misinformed, they're being manipulated on that headline that to say, oh, you need to have these shoes. FOMO is a marketing tactic,
Yeah.
fear of missing out, right? We now know that in marketing, hatred sells more than sex does. Incredibly on the but that's where when you ask me where do you draw the line, our own morals draw the line and our value.
Hi, welcome back to another episode of Storytellers. I'm Armando Pico from Pico Media.
And I'm Carlos Barkin for Barkin Creative Group.
So today's going to be a very fun
Today we have
show.
somebody that's going to keep us in line.
I don't know about keep us in line, but it's someone that I've known for many, many years. You've also known.
We've worked for many years. We've known each other, and we've worked on different times during our career, and it's a great guest.
And it's great to have her back in person because we haven't seen her for a long time. Teri Arvesu.
Thank you.
Welcome. Thank you for being one of our first guests in the show. So tell us, what have you been up to?
How could I say no? When this one calls me yesterday, I'm sitting in my backyard doing something I've never,
I don't think I've ever
done. No, he did not pay me. No. I actually have to say, I am the president of the Pico fan club. I really am. This is my Spielberg.
That's what he calls me.
When we worked together, for those who may not know me, we worked together at Channel 23. This was the person who could take a figment of an idea that I had and make it an incredible masterpiece. This is the person that if I ever needed something to get done, I had my go-to. This was one of them. There was two other ones I would say were my others, but this is a superstar.
He would also complicate things a little bit.
Well, yes, this is where I would tell him, because I'm more about efficiency and he's more about aesthetics. And I would tell him, Spielberg, I need you not to be Spielberg today because we need to get this done by the end of the week.
We think alike.
Yeah.
We think alike.
Yeah.
We think alike.
That's why me and him are so different because
it's a good balance. I think it's a great balance.
It's a great balance, and you lived it, so you know exactly what I'm talking about. Sometimes it's like over the top, and it's like, your idea is amazing. Let's bring it down a couple notches and still get, a great product done.
It's still going to be a masterpiece if he does
It's still going to be a masterpiece. So I know that since we worked together back a long time ago, we won't say how long, you've done a lot. You were news, then you were administrator, then you were on the business side of television, and now you're teaching, now you're a professor.
I'm a todóloga.
So I know that French you told me. I'm a todóloga. We got to use that one.
Yes, a todóloga.
Unapologetically a todóloga.
That's good.
I know what I do. If you don't understand it, that's your problem.
Yeah, exactly. They can figure it out. So what are you up to? I know you're teaching. I know you're kind of still in the business. You're helping other businesses. You're in business yourself. You said you're kind of a business serial entrepreneur. So tell us a little bit about what's happening right now for you.
So I left the media business. I don't know that I left it forever, but right now I'd been in the business since I was 16 and I never knew what other people ever felt, which was, what am I going to do when I get older? Because I started so young, I knew, which was a gift, right? To start, when I see young kids who struggle and they're like, what am I going to do with the rest of my life? I never had that moment. I had it at 47 years old when I decided to leave and realized oh my God, now is my opportunity. My kids were a little bit older to kind of reinvent myself and figure out what other interests do I have? Because, we have a right to change our mind, right? Like the dreams I had at 18 or at 16 don't have to be the same dreams that I have at 47. So, I've been dabbling in a couple of stuff. One of them is I am teaching at St. Thomas University. I love. I think that I am definitely a teacher by nature, even though I probably have a lot more to learn from other people than teach other people. But I think I know a few things and that gets me at least in the room to learn from other people more. I'm teaching 2 classes. One is a production and editing class this semester, and another one is called social media influencing, which is essentially everything around it's marketing, but it's branding, it's social media campaigns, all of that. It's been awesome. I love it. My students are the absolute best. I have a bunch of athletes and I really love being with young people. I recognize how much I have to learn from them and how innovative they are. they kind of teach me more. So that's one thing. The other thing was last year, as I took a sabbatical, right? I basically took a step back. But if those of you who know me, I don't know how to relax and not do
That didn't
anything.
last very long.
It didn't. It's just that I think that I discover myself and like I'm truly alive when I'm like learning stuff and experimenting and innovating, whatever. So I started a podcast, not to honestly, I've never wanted to be like even thinking about being an influencer to me is like for those that know
Didn't
me,
I tell you that day that I went to your house, you got to do a podcast?
you had
I
all
wonder
been
if I
telling.
had. I wonder if I had anything
We
to do
need,
with
we
it.
need
or
to
you
get
were gonna do
inside
it anyway.
inside your brain.
Well, a lot
to
of people have been telling me because I'm a nerd, right? Like not everybody knows
A
my
proud
story.
nerd.
I'm a
A proud
very
nerd.
proud nerd. Like you remember Ronald DeSouza?
Of course.
Rest in peace. Ronald used to tell me, "You're the prettiest nerd I ever met," and I was like, "Oh, I love him." So, anyways, I was conceived at the University of Florida,
Don't worry about it. It's all good.
and I spent my first years of life at Virginia Tech, where my parents were studying. So I think that had a profound effect on how much I love information and so learning, right? So where I like you, many people ask me, you should do a podcast. Now, if there's something that I think made me a great producer was I don't want to be on camera. I never wanted to be on camera. I felt like if I see this podcast, I'm going to hate it. I'm going to feel I look fat. I don't like my voice. I don't like, so all of that. But I ended up doing it because the conversations I was having about people, how I was reinventing myself, people are like, man, you should really do this out loud. And I was like, oh my God, I'm going to look like una payasa. This is not who I am. I don't want to do this, whatever. But I realized, I was like, you know what? When God gives you a gift, you have to, and people tell you this over and over again. I was like, you know, what do I have to lose?
100%.
I can teach them something. Somebody might watch the podcast, be like, she kind of knows what she's doing. We should hire her, right?
Yeah.
And so that's how I approach it. And then all of a sudden, I'm on Substack, which I just checked out because it was at the time that Terry Moran left ABC. He was on, and I was like, oh, let me check this out. What is this? So I get on, and all of a sudden I get my first year subscriber, and I'm like,
Wow.
like what the fuck? and so there's a little bit of money there, and there's a little money with teaching, and then I'm giving you the whole menu. Everybody's gonna be, she's all
Wow.
over the place.
That's-
Too
it's
bad. I
perfect.
can handle it. If you can't,
Do
that's
it.
your problem.
Do it.
I started a hair clip company for my daughter. She loved these hair clips, are very in style, and it's called Pontelo 305 with my best friend.
Pontelo 305.
I
Check
think-
it
We
out.
should write a jingle for that.
We can. As long as we don't sing it, we're
Pontelo
good.
305. Hey, hey, hey.
Well, you could do that commercial.
Okay,
We'll talk
there
about
we
that.
go.
Yeah.
And we started doing the pop-up bazaars at schools, and then was able to, those are fundraisers. So it was like I was helping. I did this as an act of solidarity with working mothers because I was like, I am not paying $35, $40 for a hair clip. That's crazy. Like we work too much. So in my activism, consumer activism, I start this company, and it didn't even start as a company. I just started buying clips and told her and her friends, I found the people who manufacture this. Let me know if you guys want. And then my best friend who works at another all-girls school starts coming to me with orders every single day. And I was like,
beautiful
what?
thing.
Dios quiere que yo haga esto, whatever. We ended up, so then we decided we should probably make this a business. And then we partner with schools. So a lot of the schools like St. Thomas, the Apostle, St. Kevin, Lourdes, they came and we did for them at wholesale. We started designing clips. I never thought that I would be a designer of anything, but you know what? This is what it's called, to reinvent yourself and try different things, right? It's connecting dots and saying yes to the world and seeing where things land. And I'm at that moment, I'm sure that at one moment between those companies and another leadership academy that I'm launching, which I'll get into later. And also I've partnered with a civic engagement political platform as well. Those are kind of my kind. And I just, in order for it not to feel disjointed, I just put it on under the tag collab. It's
you
basically, it's my catch-all for Terry projects, right?
Beautiful.
Things that I guess the one connective tissue is, it all has to have a societal value. Like, I'm not here to be a problem in society. Like, I want to be part of the solution. So if it's about leadership, it's about teaching young girls or even people to weather this time, which is very uncertain when it comes to AI and what does the future of our careers look like. Also, for many of us who were in the TV business, a lot of my circle was going through a really rough time.
Yeah.
How do I talk about myself in a way that is corporate enough when I was on the ground? being in news, right? It's almost a different language. So I did it honestly as a service, the collab for that. And then people come with projects and I either negotiate equity or get a little bit of cash here. And in a couple of years, we'll figure out which one was the lasting one.
So there is life after television.
Yes, there is.
There is definitely.
It
And
can be rough,
and
but I'm okay. It's fun I'm in for the ride.
so many years in storytelling, in news specifically. How do you use what you did back then to help you in business now, to help other business people tell a good story, use it for their branding, create good content? Like, how do you use everything that you've learned and couple it with what's changed? Because now it's like 20 seconds is too long, almost.
No, and also
It's a little bit of a
with
problem. Yes.
now that you have students, do you see also incorporating all that? At the end of the day, you need to entertain when you're teaching, because if not, they're not gonna grasp what you're trying to teach them. How do you use those skills in business now, but also for your students to stay engaged?
So I think at the end of the day, when you realize like, and I learned this very early in life, I don't know if it's being Cuban, that we can sell ice to an Eskimo. You know what I'm saying? Is everything is life is sales. And the way you tell a story, right, is something that translates into any industry. Yes, maybe we became specialists at doing it on television and later on digital, but in reality, this is about human connection. Storytelling is probably the oldest profession, right? It used to be on cave walls, and then we put it on scrolls, and then we did it on newspapers, and then we did it on television, but and now we do it on digital. But the fundamental kind of human connection and that psychology that happens behind that doesn't change. I mean, nothing will change that. Not even AI will change that. So when you actually called me and told me this about storytellers, I was like, this is so great, because this is how you translate what we did into anything. If you're a great storyteller, if you're captivating, and by the way, I think that also is synonymous with being really human. If you can connect at that level, you can do any job that you want, right? Do you have to learn a couple of skills? For sure. But most of us, and this is a true, I have to fact check if this number is still true. But you know that the knowledge we use on a daily basis, we have to recycle that every 18 months. Like back in the day, in the industrial era, we used to learn something and you'd use it for the rest of your life. Right. Repeat, and that's how you became specialized. Because of technology, we are constantly in these cycles of learning. And we are throwing out what we use every single day and replacing it with new information. That is what we are embarking on.
That's why I keep forgetting stuff.
Exactly.
I didn't use it in 18 months.
I don't know if it's 18 months, but I do feel now you say that, I think about what I was doing a year ago. Even in my field, it's different.
Yeah.
Even the way that I edit and the tools that I use are different. Everything has changed. Even social media. Even with social media, before you post something and it's about, for people to see it, it has to be how many followers you have. How many, the more followers people would buy followers. Yep. And right now has nothing to do with the followers.
It's about the interest.
It's by the interest of the viewer. If you're interested in something, you're going to get fed. Social media, the algorithms are going to feed you exactly what interests you, regardless whether you have 100 followers or 20,000 followers. Yeah. That just changed in the last couple of years.
Yeah.
So you constantly, which is good, because now you don't have to spend money. Before, in our news days, you
wanted a commercial. You had to pay airtime.
Thousands and thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
And now you don't.
No, you can do tiny experiments. One of the things I teach in class is like the learning cycle has changed. By the way, but you guys are interested in it because it translates not just to social media, but just to everything in life. This week I published a 3P, because this could be literally my dissertation for my PhD, but I know that people's attention spans are not that good. I'm not great at the 20 seconds. I'll tell you, I like to have a little more substance than that.
Yes.
So I'm going to be recording that, make it a podcast. I read my articles to people in case you don't want to read, Perfect. But I hope they do. Is, a learning, you have to have a learning environment, right? Where you plan, then you act, then you measure, and then you reflect. And it's kind of like a coil. Whereas I always think that when we started in the business, it was almost like the oldest person in the room always had all of the knowledge, right? And while I do think that people who are older and veterans bring something different to the table that rookies do, The reality is that that's no longer the case. It's not, oh, I'm going to become specialized and then I'm going to be the end all be all. No, I always went to the oldest person at the newsroom to always ask questions. That's changed. And I think it's a byproduct of what we're talking about is that it's more cyclical. The way that we learn is iterative
Because things keep
now.
changing. So it was
But by
valid
the time
2
you
years
learn
ago.
something, that's it.
It changed again.
Now, at the same time, though, what it does is like, for example, if I want to on my brand, my Pontelo brand, right? I want to be like, I wonder if this will resonate with people. I don't have to pay millions of dollars to do it. I can just, it's cheap, right?
make
And I
a couple
try it and I
videos
see it and
and-
I learn a few things through that campaign, and then I realize we need to tweak here, tweak there. And really, that's what we teach in this class is about having learning environments that are constantly like that. And that's very different than the way I think many of us grew up, where it was like you just acquired all this knowledge, you became a specialist, and all of a sudden you made it. No, like here it's just about constant reinvention, right?
Yeah.
Constant
It things keep changing. And AI, back to AI. People are afraid of AI. And I know we were talking before we started recording about, it was like electricity. Electricity was afraid of electricity and people are afraid to use it. And AI is kind of one of those things. And at the end of the day, it's coming whether you want it or not. It's here and it's only going to change and improve and invade our lives. And if you don't learn it, you're going to be left behind.
Yeah, you're going to be run over.
I'm not afraid. In fact, I'll tell you, I'm probably one of the biggest advocates to AI. So 2 years before AI came out, like that people were using it. Okay, not that it was to the public, but my brother was at McKinsey, and my brother says to me, "You need to learn this. This is something that is going to change. It's going to change the way we do everything." So I started playing with it with ChatGPT. This was before there was even Claude, Perplexity, all those.
Yeah, now there's a million.
And I was like, oh my God. Like, I remember the first thing I asked it was, because I played with it. That's the beauty of technology. When you like technology and you're curious and you play, like, this is why I was always ahead. Like, Pico knows. I was always like, nobody wanted to get on Facebook. I was like, we're teaching the class on Facebook. We're all getting on Facebook. This is what we're going to do, And so I got in and I asked it to write a love letter to my husband. And it goes, and I go, oh my God, this is amazing, right?
So you gave it to him?
Huh? No, I didn't. He was asleep right next to me. But that's where I started to realize, like, I'm very efficient in the sense that I hate doing mundane and like repetitive things. There's certain things about AI. I think societal optimization is going to be when we get to be more human, we have more time to be more human
100%.
instead of trying to be freaking robots, trying to pump out 200 pictures in one set. We can't compete against AI, right?
Yeah.
But there's a portion of AI that will never be replaced by humans, like these critical thinking, empathy, context, for example. Like, do I use it? I use it all the time for a lot of things. But it's very hollow still, and it's never going to be 100%, at least the writing. The writing is not.
It's very cold.
But it does help me. Like, Concho,
It gives you ideas.
Absolutely.
And then you
like,
go back and then you retweak it.
something that, like, cognitively, I'm freaking exhausted between the fact of being a mom and a house and all that stuff, because you have to be mom, dad. No, I'm just kidding. But it's a cognitive overload what we have. We're burned out. And on top of that, we're scrolling. Our brains weren't meant for that.
Yeah.
So to have something that can actually take that load off for me is a breath of freaking fresh air. I'll take it. I'm going to do a shameless plug of my podcast.
Do it.
I have one that how I talk about on AI, that it's about how it was the answer to an overwhelmed mom. So we're on vacation. And I was like, I want to be on the beach sipping margaritas. I do not want to be at the grocery buying the food because I had to, me tocó ese día, like that one day where I had to cook for the 12 people we were on vacation with. We always everybody takes their turns. It's like, I am not going to stay the whole day cooking at home. I want to be on the beach. So I ended up going into ChatGPT. I asked it some questions for the menu, then told it to make me the grocery list, then had it categorize the grocery list. All of this while I'm sitting on the beach still.
Yeah.
Did it cook it for you too, or no?
No, that part it didn't.
It's getting
that
there.
part,
We need a robot in a couple of years. We're gonna have those robots.
It didn't, but that was where I said, you know what? This is the part where you say, listen, I'm good at this, but I'm not good at this. And I got in and out of the grocery on time, and it wasn't like every time I used to have to do that before. It was like, in the middle of my vacation, and in the middle of my vacation, I had to
I gotta
cook for 12
think,
feet.
and what am I gonna make? And then, did I forget something at the grocery? So I gotta go back.
And I think like one thing I tell people is decision fatigue is real. Like when you look at great designers and people who are really, really good at their craft, you notice that they're always dressed the same, right? They don't waste their creative decisions on boberia. And I always tell my husband, I'm like, this brilliant mind cannot be wasted on cooking and grocery lists and all that stuff. And
That's
you know
a
what?
good one.
Whoever wants the
helped
right
me.
shirt to wear for the podcast.
Exactly. I like my shirt. It doesn't matter that it has stripes and the back has stripes. It's good. There's separation. We have good backlighting. Anyways,
So no, we should not be afraid of it. You're right. If the big divide is going to be people who the learning gap becomes so big that it's going to be like what, like a house of hoarders, where you're like, oh my, or a house of Phil, you don't even know where to start.
Yeah,
That's what's going to be really hard for them. So if you just chip
Little
at
by
it,
little,
little
yeah.
by little, you can keep up.
at the end of the day, it has to be seen as a tool. And it's going to be something that is not necessarily going to replace people, but it's going to replace people who don't learn it, I think.
Yeah, people are going to be, the whole kind of buzz phrase is you won't be replaced by AI, you'll be replaced by somebody using AI. But in the same way that there will be new jobs that will come as a result of the fact that now a computer can do that for us. Instead, new jobs, come on, look at the internet. When the internet came around, we didn't all disappear. It gave new jobs.
I mean, card catalogs are no longer a thing, but you still do research, and you just do it with different tools, and you still have to do research papers when you're in school. I'm assuming you're the professor here, but you have easier. I mean, you can research on your phone. You can use, AI,
I think they should use it.
and
I
it's
tell them all
still-
the time to use the tools, use it as a
As a tool.
as a tool, and also it frees up. I think we ask a lot of our students today. You know what I tell them? I'm like, go use the rest of the extra time to go network. Because
100%.
reality is that it's not just the skills you have, which by the way are in flux right now, right? They're changing, but it's the relationships. That's the thing that with everything I had on my plate, building relationships was the last thing in my priority because I was trying to be a mom. I was trying to keep up with more people being cut at work and still delivering the same amount quality of the work. It's again, having relationships is as important as
How do you see that with students nowadays that the new generation, they're so glued in their phones and their relationships are digital and texting and not that much personal. When you tell them network more, talk more.
Do they text to the person next to them, or
Yeah.
do they
How
actually?
do you
Could they
see-
have a conversation?
Can
No,
they
I
have
think
the-
they're at a huge
Is that
deficit.
is that a challenge that you see? Because at the end of the day, they need to go out there and they need to network in order to either be successful in their own business or a career. You need to know how to talk, and I think that's a skill, that's an art that is it's leading.
Being lost.
and the
It's being lost.
resourcefulness that you need to, that like we learn when something's not, most of their lives are on demand, right? It's right there. They don't know what
It's
like.
so easy for them.
They don't know what it was
But
to take us.
that pain that we felt, where we didn't also numb it by looking on here, we had to think about it and be like, you know what? I made that mistake. I want to do this again. Our kids, I really truly believe that our kids are at a deficit. Part of the Leadership Academy is about building that brain capital for, well, in this case, we're focusing on women. My podcast talks about this for men and women, but in reality, our kids over-index on the use of the phone. So technology, they get that. But the part about relationships and about networking, like I don't want to single them out, but I was coaching somebody the other day and they didn't know how to even like strategically take advantage of a connection I was making for them. And I said, no, stop. What are you going to ask this person? You need to have an agenda. What to do? I had one of my friends came to my class the other day. No, not came. He was connected. I had to tell the kids, I'm like, you stand up, you give your name, because this is the first time he, who's an executive producer for show, is going to hear your name. Next time, you may be following up with him. Are all of you going to follow up on LinkedIn? Are all of you going to send him a note to see if he will have coffee with you? Because you know what? I'd rather take that than getting a call that says, can you give me a job? Nobody's going to take your call.
They're not going to remember. Yeah.
Like our kids, sadly, they're at a deficit where they maybe over-index on the technology. I think that the last couple of years, the information age, where they've learned so much STEM, which is important, science, technology, right? But a lot of that coding, for example, AI is going to do it. But they've lost out on these human skills that we need to figure out how to bring them back into schools and teach that. And I hope we have time. I think we do have time, but I think that this is a moment of reckoning where a lot of education programs need to sit back and be like, are we doing the hard skills as much as the soft skills? Because their ability, those brains
Yeah.
capital is what's going to be just, if not more important.
Yeah, the human connection. I mean, even when we go back to content and storytelling, if you don't have a human connection, there's no story.
Even empathy. Like some of the best storytellers, I honestly like. We had a writer. I'm gonna mention her because I want to give her a shout out. Elena Amaro.
Oh,
As
excellent.
a reporter, I mean, she was one of the most empathetic people I'd ever met in my entire life. And her writing showed it. It was different. The way she saw the things
Real.
she saw when she was out there doing a story, the details she picked up. That level of empathy, like is your differentiator. In business, we talk about what's your differentiator. Everybody can have a podcast. Anybody can do anything right now. The question is, how do you differentiate, right? And so that empathy, that ability to connect at a human level, I think is really important. And a lot of management is about psychology, that's been helpful, right? Because I think we had not only management, but marketing is a lot of psychology too. Mm-hmm. Sometimes though it can be abused, right? Like with rage baiting. Oh, or FOMO, right? Like I talked to my this is a Catholic school. So I do talk to the kids about not abusing like those headlines that are just clickbait. Like, unfortunately,
It's
people
so
are losing
big
trust in all information because of that, and that's a big problem. It's a problem.
Is it challenging when you're trying to tell a story, you're trying to captivate someone, that because of social media, if you don't grab them in the first 3 seconds, there's those clickbaits it's not really what the story is. But sometimes it's very hard to tell a story and to get somebody engaged to eventually watch your story in 3 seconds without lying, without putting something that's not real. And you see that all the time. It's become a trend. You see something like a tragedy, and
it was 5 years ago.
Yeah, and in the middle of the story, it changes to a brand. Oh, now that I got your attention, blah blah blah. And I saw it the other day. It was an accident, and the person goes flying, lands on the windshield of a car. The person gets out, and when they get to the front of the car, you see clothing laid out. Oh, and check out our clothes. And I was like, it did catch my attention, but I was like, wow, have we gotten to this in order to just tell a story? I mean, where do you draw a line?
We're in the attention economy. You know what? I come from social responsibility, and I do have a problem with. I don't think that was so bad because it was surprising, right? But it didn't disinform or misinform.
No,
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, that's where I draw the line. Again, I'm going to do a shameless plug of my podcast because these are the things I think about and talk about all the time. 156 ways in which your brain is being hijacked. I basically put out on the line, like I basically did a white paper that probably nobody's read, and because nobody wants to read it.
We'll read it.
You got to put like bullet points on the screen.
It's all the marketing tactics that are used, and they're hijacking our kids. That's the part that kills me, is that our kids are losing agency. People are losing agency, right? Because they're misinformed. They're being manipulated on that headline to say, oh, you need to have these shoes. FOMO is a marketing tactic. Fear of missing out, right? Mm-hmm. We now know that in marketing, hatred sells more than sex does. Wow. Incredibly but that's where, when you ask me, where do you draw the line? Our own morals draw the line, and our values.
But
right?
we keep pushing
how do we
keep pushing it? So you're like, oh, okay, this one wasn't that bad. And then, then the other one pushes the boundary a little more. And then a year from now, you go back, I'm like, oh, that one that kind of bothered me doesn't bother me anymore because
it's got so much
worse. And then how do you compete with that when you're a classical storyteller? Marketing when person. You studied and these are the right ways and these are the case studies that were done. And now you're trying to do that and that no longer works because you're competing with a 2-second clickbait that does not tell a story.
Yeah.
How do you do that? I mean,
look, I don't know that the answer is there. I think though, like everything in life, if you want to see the change in the world, you become that first part, right? And if enough of us do that, I am enamored by this generation, these kids that are coming up now. Mm-hmm. Not because I'm at a Catholic school only. I mean, these kids this is a university. You know, they're playing sports there. I'm sure it was a great opportunity, but so many of them are Christian. Like, they're coming back to their faith. And that's what restores my hope that they're starting to cut through the bullshit more. Like they can figure this out, right? What scares me is the fact that people don't know how to differentiate the good media, the good people, the good ones with values versus the ones without, right? Like you're saying, we compete, and they're harder to compete with because you're right. The Ukrainian website that is spewing out fake information is getting more impressions than
Yeah.
we who were trying to just be, I don't want to put an adjective in the headline, I just want to tell you what the hell's going on and you come to your own conclusion. Pendulum swing from one side to the other. Are we there yet? I don't
But
know.
every year, the pendulum goes further this way. So when it drops, it goes further this way.
Yeah, it's like
And then at some point, somebody's got to grab it and just hold it a little bit. So then it kind of, the swings are a little lower.
I don't know that I really don't have the answer. Like I said, you bring up a super important point, like that keeps me up at night, right? Is like that is what we're competing against. And I just, being consistent, having great professionals like you guys that, hopefully I'm a version of that too,
course.
that people say, Concha, you know what? These are the people that I trust and these are the people I want to do business with and these are the people that I want to hear what their content is, and everybody else, will fall along eventually, caen por su propio peso, like I say, right? I guess.
Did you notice once you were in a leadership position, more in management, that telling a good story, telling all the angles of a story, in our case was journalism, got in the way of telling a good story because of other decisions that were being made?
So I don't think that they thought that granularly, to be honest with you. Maybe your immediate management was like, you might have had a different experience. I think what was very useful for me was when like I told you, I continued studying, right? And it gave me a point of view or like a line of sight of the business that I would not have had in news only. And I actually always had a problem with that. And I used to advocate a lot for letting the news people see the business part. Because then these type of things, you understand it a little bit more. Wait a second, why are we making these cuts? I'm not talking about Univision, or I'm just going to talk in general about the business. My husband was in newspapers. And so what we've been living in the industry right now, I've been living that for 20 years. My husband was in the newspapers, and then he reinvented his career and became something else. Hence, now I tell him, I'm like, now you're my inspiration. I'm reinventing myself. But what was very useful, Pico, for me was understanding the point of view from the CEO and also even from the board level. And also when you think about private equity. When you really look at how private equity runs a lot of our social, a lot of newspapers, hospitals, it is not done with the best interest in mind. Okay. It puts a lot of financial pressure on the teams to be able to turn around that level of a profit. Why? Because they got investors and they told an investor, and listen, every single one of us has stock in 401k, right? And the way that if you invest $1, you're going to come in and you're going to expect 10, right? Those are the pressures that were put down on that you were feeling in that way. That's how it translated perhaps to you, right? We also had the disruption of media in general, and the fact that, when you look back at advertising dollars used to subsidize news. They were not subsidizing La Payasa there who's selling shampoo, right? Or I mean, no offense, like the influencer or whatever. Like, I have great respect for influencers that do great content, but people who are just like making people dumber, no, I don't have respect for them, But those adverts, so that advertising abandoned much of news. That's how we used to stay. Like that societal value, we were able to do that because advertising paid for that. Advertising went to digital. When you look, these are not numbers you got to go fact check them because they might be a little bit outdated. But I remember at one time, think about that as a bucket of money. That was billions of dollars in advertising nada más, okay? And who were they sharing amongst? Newspapers, magazines, TV, radio. All of which, many of them had it because we had the airwaves that belonged to the people, and we were given that privilege of using them. We had an obligation to give something that was of societal value, right? And in this case, it was news. All of that money, 90% of that advertising went towards Google and Facebook when they came out on the scene. That left us with no other business model. Is that on us too? Maybe a little bit too. Maybe we should have known. Maybe we should have been more innovative. Maybe we should have figured out, well, if this goes away, just nobody thought that it would,
And at
how
the
would we
speed that it
replace,
went.
and at the
Yeah.
speed that it went, and then take into consideration those that are, those companies that are owned by private equity, where now it's, we don't want to just have a profit margin where we're growing 10% every month. Like, you guys are a business. I mean, I'm not gonna put you on the spot, but like,
You want to grow.
how you,
Yeah.
right, but there's a balance where you say, you know what, do you want to have 70% or 60% margins, so at the cost of the longevity and the continuity of it? Like, if you ever want to read a great book, it's called Bad Company, which talks about how you'll find yourself, that you'll understand what we lived little by little every single day, that we didn't know it creeps up. You'll see. And I'm not, again, I just want to make sure that I say that. I'm not saying it's Univision. I'm saying
It's in
just
general.
private equity.
It's the market.
When
It's the market of television, of on air, and even
Traditional
cable at this point.
Traditional media is in a crisis.
It is.
But even private equity, a lot of there's a statistic that shows how many companies that are owned by private equity end up going into bankruptcy, right? And so all of a sudden, like that book in particular, Shaw talks about a hospital. It was the only hospital in the community, but it was bought by private equity. They ended up selling it off as real estate. Wow. Right? Like that's where you say there has to be a balance, in the sense of, do we really need to have those 40% margin rate if all of a sudden we're going to have half of America like unemployed? Maybe there's, and you say that and people are like, "Es una comunista." Yeah. And he's like, no, it's not. It's called responsible capitalism. It's not late stage capitalism like what sometimes we're seeing now, that people are just like, it's disenfranchising. And that's why you get people who say, you know what, me voy con el comunismo porque este es mejor que esto, porque yo no soy Jeff Bezos and I'm never going to have that money, and my kid's going to go to school and I don't even know how he's going to have a job, right? That, I believe in free market. I believe in like capitalism, but not in this late stage capitalism that creates these like bajillionaires and everybody else is suffering.
Yeah, the middle class is actually
The middle class,
it's disappearing. It's a new study came out. It's getting shrinking more.
So back to content. And you can kind of balance this question with what you're teaching and what you're doing for your own business and for your own customers. Basically, how do you cut through the noise with so much content and people having access to so much content on their phone, so many platforms? How do you cut through the noise to get your message, your story, your brand out there?
Having relationships. I mean, I'm a big fan of being I think if you're not on the internet, if you're not on social, people don't know you exist. But there's nothing like this, right? Like I know that's not the answer you were looking for, but I'm just very big about lasting relationships. That's what cuts through the noise. Those are the people that are going to get you the job, that are going to get you the business, the referral. But if I have to answer what type of content cuts through the noise, I think it's radical authenticity. I think people are totally turned off by oh, look at me and how special I am. And like the way that social media started to make a lot of people feel like, what's wrong with me? I'm on LinkedIn. I can't find a job. What the hell's wrong with me, right? Like, I think what comes through the noise is something like what you guys are doing. When we sit here, we are taking time out of our own day to teach somebody or to share something, some insight, something we learned that might make their pain a little bit less, right? When people see that creates trust. And so it comes all down to the trust that it can be built through digital, no doubt, right? Like, but also is built through those relationships.
Authenticity. I mean, it's always been important, and I think now even more than ever.
There's so much BS out there. There's more BS than authenticity, you say. But how do you reach new viewers, new clients? Because yes, relationships, but our circles are only big enough to allow us to grow to a certain amount. Right. At the end of the day, we need to grow more. And it's always that balance of creating content that's real authentic, but that's also entertaining, because we are in the entertainment. We're storytelling, but we have to we have to tell the story in an entertainment way, because now we're not going to catch that viewer, that new customer.
Well, I don't know that it's only in the new. I think actually you said something before, which I think is the shift we're seeing in social media is, rather than it being social media, it's called interest media now, where you're seeing like TikTok and the about section. So what I suggest is you know what you're great at, right? Like there's topics, I know what topics I love to talk about, right? Like leadership, even we haven't talked about it here, but even like some of the cultural, like culture as a Hispanic woman, what are things that
Yes.
have in my brain kept me, from being the best version of myself. I talk about those things that I love, and then other people, it pops up on other people's feeds, right?
'Cause they're
One
interested in it.
organically.
Right.
The truth is, if you really want to take it to the next level, you do want to invest some money in it and have a marketing campaign, right? And then you also want to use, for example, some of the hashtags that you use will help with that visibility of what you love to talk about, or me, if I love to talk about leadership, well, being strategic about what hashtags am I including? What words am I using in order my SE search engine optimization? What words am I using to be able to be higher up in the results in Google? Now, there's another thing that's super cool. I also have a podcast. See, I talk about all this stuff. I hope people listen because I talk about it.
There you
And
go.
I hope somebody learns something. I'm learning on my own. But large language models now, the
Yes.
way that you pop up, I'm like, most people now when they meet us, before we used to go, you go to Google. I met
Not
people.
anymore. Now it's
Google. Now you go to
ChatGPT or
ChatGPT.
Claude.
Who is this person,
Yeah.
right? And so there is a search. There is just like there's search engine optimization for Google. There's large language model optimization.
Yes.
One of the things that is shown, like number one, is how have you optimized your website, right? The way that you talk about yourself on your website starts to shape the narrative about what will show up in ChatGPT.
And I heard FAQs is a big one.
That's a huge one. Yep.
It's
That's
big
a big
which
one.
I have to
FAQs.
apply it to my own website. I read about it, but I haven't actually done it. But they say it's huge.
Yes. It's a big part of how you talk about yourself. So like, for example, in my Substack, you'll oftentimes see that I'll put TLDR, too long, didn't read. It's actually not for my viewer. So I throw it at the bottom of the author section, and I'll put like Teri Arvesu talks about leadership, a Latina executive. The way I talk about myself is how it gets the large language models pick that up more. So if I would have done a brand audit on myself when I was in Chicago or even first came back to Miami, yeah, I would have come up as only news, only media. Because of the being consistently creating a podcast, creating content, being invited to other people's podcasts or getting public, this is where public relations is also really important. When other people call you to be the expert on something, and by the way, some of those things are just like my podcast and your podcast, right?
Yeah.
But like you're seen as a thought leader, that goes into that is taken into consideration and given a higher
Value,
right?
yeah.
So let's say that let's say they say, I don't think I've reached this point, but like if they say, who are the best Latina podcast writers on
You're it.
leadership? Like, oh, Terry, or let's say best flowers in Miami. So if you're a business, you need to be thinking about that. Not only like, first of all, I think for your business, this is awesome because people are creating their own empires now. Right?
100%.
You create this content for them, and this is how they show up in the world more. But yeah, it's like search engine optimization.
So let's talk about Substack because that's one of those that I've read a little bit, but I don't. Do people read? I mean, Substack is. Tell me a little bit about Substack and how you're using it and how it's helped you with your business. And do people actually read?
So like everything, it's an experiment. Okay. I first, when I started with so first of all, Substack, I got on it because I saw Jorge Ramos when he got on it, and Terry Morano was in the same week. And I was like, I'm always open to trying something new
yes.
and whatever. And I was like, let's see. There's a great podcast that talks about Substack, how we built this. Okay. In full disclosure, what I'll tell you is Substack has raised a lot of money. That's why you are hearing more about it. It is not yet a profitable company. So just take that into consideration as you build and amass too many audiences there. You need to diversify. You cannot put all your
100%.
eggs in one basket. Just like Facebook could turn off the algorithm,
Or
Twitter
change.
could, same
And
thing.
it changes.
So just,
It changes. Yes.
this is, you need to show up in different places because you don't know when that valve can be turned on. What I like about Substack is the fact that for people who write or create content, mostly it did start for writers, but it has a video. You can put the video portion on it. I ended up doing the video portion in order to see if people, because a lot of people were telling me what you write is too long. And I'm like, okay, let me see if I do a podcast, which then, super cool. When I publish my podcast, my video there, automatically it goes to YouTube. It goes to Apple Apple Podcasts,
Podcasts.
and Spotify.
Perfect.
So when we talk about like AI, this is where I love AI. It
it-
syndicates it
you
for
would
me.
have to- you
If
would have
not,
to
I
do
would have
this.
to download, upload, put in the search engine on each optimization words on each one of them. That's awesome. Like, so part of the syndication, it helps me with that big time. It also already has in it, like when people subscribe, they can decide I want a yearly subscription and or not. Because I told you that I did this because of what I wanted to do was just be transparent and help people and whatever. I give a lot of it away, but every now and then I do like paid for the subscribers that I have. There are people who have paid for this, which I'm like, wow.
Do you set the price, or how does it work?
You set the price, and then they already have it works with Stripe. So Stripe will then directly into my bank account on Mondays gives me money. Some days, truth be told, because I don't want to be what is it? The word you guys use, the .com.
La mentira.com.
La mentira.com. I am not la mentira.com. Sometimes it's like $8.
Hey, it's
for the cafecito.
It's barely a cafecito.
The day I got my first subscriber was like, what? Whatever. So,
just the fact that you're helping one person, even though you have one subscriber, that means you're doing something right. I mean,
and some of them, by the way, probably the second and third were my mother and my dad.
Hey, it's all good. They changed their name.
But you know what? But we have to call it out. In lamentira.com, you have to call it out. That's the truth. My mother, my father, they're the first ones, and then later, when I got the
you
first,
make it. That's the other one.
There you go.
Totally, like whatever. And so, but then it also has the tools, which I think it's still not great yet, which is once I have to distribute it. So one of the things is syndication. The other thing is distribution. Mm-hmm. I do have to it does give me cuts automatically. Like it's what they call agentic AI, which is like it already cuts it for you. It doesn't cut my best material. Like I have to go in and do that.
You have to go in and manually.
So, which is a pain in the ass. See, I don't like doing that. Huh?
There's another tool, Opus Clip.
Opus Clip.
I have not tried Opus Clip. What I ended up doing was, I'm going to tell you, is I put my script in, or the transcript of my podcast, and I go into ChatGPT and I tell it, walk through it, pick 2 of the 3 of the best ones.
AI.
And even if I don't even like them, then
and
I go, no me gusta ese, go back.
And then you grab that and you feed it and you say, okay, cut it
Right.
here.
Once I'm happy with it, and I'll be like,
okay.
Because my whole strategy, which I'm trying to get better at, because I'm not disciplined at it, like a work in progress, I'll be honest with you with this, is do 2 to 3 videos and like 2 or 3 quote cards, and that's it, right? Like, so I asked the GPT to help me because I'll be like, ay, pero eso estaba bueno también. Ay, pero eso estaba bueno también. Because I'm a journalist. I need editors. I will be like, saca esto, pico. What do I have to take out,
The hardest thing is to cut your own material.
Oh my God.
It was
so hard. No, not that. That's so important.
So that doesn't do it within, but I understand that they are developing something to make it easier so that people like me, who I am not interested in sitting there and distributing it. What I want to do is do the research, put it together, post it. I hate all the other parts. It helps with that.
And are you writing or are you using AI to help write?
It does both. Both. I'll be honest with you.
You could write your general idea and say, okay, make this pretty.
No, but I go in and I'll be like, no, go and change it. No, do this.
Okay, so
I'll tell you when I get ideas, I'll be listening to a book in the car. And then I'll be like, that's a really good idea. I should write an article on it. And then I'll go and I tell ChatGPT through my like through the voice.
Yeah.
By the way, I also programmed the chat.
Do you fight with your ChatGPT?
Yes, I do.
Oh my God.
One day, well, can I tell you? Oh my God, this you're gonna crack up because everybody says I'm super intense, right?
No.
The other day,
no.
ChatGPT told me that I had maxed out.
Terremoto.
Like ChatGPT told me it was tired. In other words, and I was like, I couldn't believe it. I drove it crazy. But you know what? I also think about that too. I'm like, thank God that I'm dealing with a robot because me hubiera mandado pa carajo. Like the people that I work with, I think about like Claudia Prado, who used to work with me. Claudia would be like, you're gonna make that change. Like I'm like, oh my God, thank God.
If you had like a personal assistant that was a real person and that was your chat,
they quit. They
sure.
would quit. So you asked me, and I do look for ideas. I do research. But the reason I'm able to do that is either I'm constantly feeding myself.
You have to feed it.
And I also sometimes will be like, oh wait, you know what? I studied this 15 years ago. What was that? Let me go back to that. And I'll be like, oh yeah. So it's a combination. Like I'll tell you, I had to change a lot of the one that I did because it wasn't conveying the emotion that I needed it to convey in terms, and it didn't automatically. I did it in piecemeals. Like this last post is that it's a 3-part series, is also about us thinking about how the Industrial Revolution changed everything. It didn't automatically suggest that
No.
I talk about the Industrial Revolution. It was me
You
who
prompted
said,
it to tie
had
it
the idea,
to.
this is like before electricity and after electricity, and how the work life changed. And so I prompted to get ideas, to be concise, but like I hate the fact that it doesn't always write in paragraphs. Like that
It's a
very
lot of
quickly.
like,
Yeah.
right.
I went back to, you'll notice I did a lot of work on this last one, So
So
but it's
you're
a
using
combination,
the
and I'm
tools.
unapologetic about it. Like nobody says, I need to tell you something. I didn't actually kill the cow, the hamburger I just cooked, right? Or I feel a little bit ashamed, but I am using electricity. No,
Yeah.
like I'm this stigma sucks.
Yeah,
Like it's
yeah.
stupid. No, you're not less intelligent. On the contrary, it's people who can ask
It's a
great
tool.
questions, journalists like us that can ask great questions are the ones that are going to be able to take out the most from it, or who are problem solvers.
You don't think it's so
I don't want, I
exciting?
get excited. I do. I love AI. The day it takes over the world, they're all going to come after me and be like, why'd you tell me to do AI?
I think
Listen,
that's
at the end of the day, AI is going to cure diseases. It's going to help us with our health. It's going to do a lot of positives. And, hopefully it doesn't have to cure one of us, but hey, if we ever have a problem and AI is used to cure disease, I mean,
It will
I'm all
see
for
things
it.
that
It
others
will.
don't
It
because of
will. It will.
pattern recognition.
It will.
That others don't, or if you want to feed into it your finances, be like, you're wasting too much money at Starbucks, like that type of thing. I'm excited for what it can do, because what I do really believe is that it's going to free up more time from me having to do all this mundane stuff, putting numbers in Excels and doing that stuff, to
Oh, yeah.
to actually
Yeah.
being able to have conversations where we can sit here. I can be here today and do the 200 jobs I just told you that I do because of the fact that it is my best partner.
It gives you, it frees up some of your time. I mean, at the
It
end of the day,
does.
if you had to write, 3 press releases, but now you can kind of feed the talking points and what you want, and now you use that tool in your business to do it's going to save you
And think
time
about
at
the
the end.
consistency too. You can
Of
program
course.
ChatGPT
Yeah.
on the premium. You can program it, and now all of a sudden it becomes the knowledge base. So you can take your entire brand book. I did this for my
Feed it in.
companies, so that the communication was consistent. I went in and I did my entire brand book for the Unstoppable Me Academy, is the leadership one, so that every single time we went for a grant, an email, wrote a press, we had consistent language in it. I also am doing that with the civic engagement platform. It makes sure that a human, that would be subjective. Be like, I am being consistent in the language. No, you're actually not.
Because today you're in a
right?
pissy mood, and
Yeah. So that's also another way that I've used it. I'll tell you one more way that I've done that's super cool too.
all right.
My kids, so I love assessments. Like when you study management, you do a lot of assessments, strength finders, whatever, all that stuff.
You make assessments for your kids?
I made it. I did no,
You
because I
test
want them to no, I want them to know what their strengths are, right? So they
Okay.
can work towards they can do that. My daughter has dyslexia also, so we got to the full gamut of tests. And I was like, I want to be a better mom to her, like guide her in a very uncertain time. So I took all her assessments and I made that the knowledge base for the chat GPT. And I can ask it questions like, hey, would Valentina be better at this or not? I mean, it's not
Wow.
an all end all be all.
No, but it's a
because I
starting
don't want her
point.
to have limiting beliefs, right? And that it reinforce it. But it is better than here's a 200-page assessment. Now interpret it. You have somebody else that you can ask. And so I ended up doing it for my son, and I ended up doing it for my daughter. And then somebody asked me to do it for their daughter, and I met with her, and she was like, "Wow!" And I go, "But listen,
Take
take it with a grain of salt. The way that I do, it's just one level up from here's an assessment. Good luck with interpreting that.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, 100%. Okay, so
do a
let's do a rapid fire.
Yes.
So, okay, these are quick questions. Just
The first thing that comes to your head. You do the evens, the odds, and I'll do the evens.
okay. Are you more creative in the morning or late evening?
Late evening.
So, all right. Book or podcast for learning something new?
Book.
Cafecito or American coffee?
American coffee.
Wow.
Really?
That one surprises me considering
Yeah.
you've had 2 cafecitos since you got here. Okay.
That's because I had 3 American coffees at home.
Got it.
What's your go-to productivity hack?
AI these days.
Exactly.
If you had to delete all your social media, but you were able to keep one platform, which one would it be?
I'm gonna say the company I'm working with is called Moxie.
Okay.
That's shameless plug. Shameless
know.
plug. That's a civic engagement.
Okay.
Actually, can I say something really quick?
Sure.
You guys all have to help me share. It's a revenue model for journalists. One of the
Okay.
things, it's a rev share. Please connect with me on LinkedIn. I'd love to tell people about
100%.
it because como so many journalists se están comiendo un cable. This is why I partnered with the guy who created this app, because among many things, this is one of the things
So
it
it's a
does. It
social
could give
media.
you a revenue stream. It's not just social media. It has an incredible tools around politics and legislation.
Interesting. So,
Yeah.
okay, we learned something new. I didn't know about that one. Okay.
Biggest inspiration right now?
My daughter. And I get to do that, pick her up every day at school, which I never did have the chance to do that.
Data driven, or do you go with your gut feelings?
Data driven.
Interesting. Okay. Well, is that now after you, or always?
Always.
Wow.
Always. The moment that on television, the moment we started getting like those overnights and minute by minute and all that stuff, it just felt like I just educated my gut so much better. So I'm a huge geek of numbers and data and that information. But it's
Interesting.
not either or, right?
Because
Either.
creatives usually are gut driven. It's like, I think this story is going to do well. It should be our top story. But you're more about, okay, let's
I
analyze
think
what
that
we
gut
did.
needs to be educated because
100%.
sometimes we're too close to the product and we have our blind spots. So to me, data is a way to create
Okay,
that
fair,
space.
fair.
Work from home or office vibes?
No, work from home. Work from home. Nobody wants to work with me all day in an office. It's not even about me.
You're
It's
so
about them.
thoughtful of the other people
Even
around.
ChatGPT is like, no, go take a break.
I'm telling you, I don't even want to be hanging out with me all day long sometimes. It's
Quick-
a lot.
Okay, quick communication. Is it an email or a text?
Text.
Okay. And go ahead.
Favorite way to recharge after a busy day?
Sitting in my backyard on one of those swings we have.
Swing.
Yeah.
Swing.
Yeah.
All right.
Having a cafecito or an American coffee?
Usually it's having an American coffee, and it's usually these days it's in the morning.
I'm going to add one that's not here. Wine or a cocktail?
A cocktail.
Ah, okay.
Which one?
Honestly, I'm not drinking much because la menopausia has gotten me. And menopausia is like a freaking, it's like Russian roulette. Alcohol, you don't know if the next day.
It's hot.
No, because the next day it's a commitment. Hangover is a commitment that I can't make that commitment.
Yeah,
I don't have
I got you.
time.
And him with little kids? Menos todavía.
You
No sé cómo me va a caer.
Drink and then it's like, it didn't happen.
No, and a headache the next day.
Yeah,
You're like,
yeah.
this is a commitment I can't make.
Yeah, that's crazy.
All right, so how do we end this thing? Because I know you got to pick up your kids.
I gotta go pick up my daughter. She's
All right,
gonna be waiting me there. For
All right,
me.
so go ahead, end it.
No, I mean, awesome having you today. We actually learned so much, a lot more than I thought I was going to learn. So it was amazing.
Yo parezco boba, pero I guess I have some.
I know, but you gave us a lot of insights and you gave the public a lot of insights. So thank you again for having us here. And
And watch your podcast and watch our podcast?
Yes.
Plug your podcast again.
We'll share each other.
There you
In this
go.
world, we can collaborate.
What's
a
the
lot.
name of your podcast again?
It's called the Tag Collab for
The
Teri
Tag?
Arvesu Gonzalez.
There
That's how
you
creative
go.
I was.
All right.
Well, thanks again. That's it for this episode of Storytellers. I'm Armando Pico
And I'm Carlos Barquin. We'll see you next time.
on Storytellers.